Hi, my name is Jeff Wheat, and I'm the CTO for Lumu. And today I want to talk to you about the future of cybersecurity operations. Before I do that, though, I want to give you a little bit of background about myself so you can understand some of the context of some of the statements I'm making during this presentation. Originally, NSA came and got me straight out of college, University of Kansas, back before anyone knew who they were, including me. I thought they were NASA. They apparently didn't have a sense of humor about that back then. But in and out of those worlds, since then, I've built threat intelligence cells using things like Watson and artificial intelligence and stuff. More recently, I ran Anheuser-Busch's Global Security Operations Center in Bangalore, India. And then most recently, I was a CISO for an incident response group where we did over 100 incident responses in the last year and built out the SOC services for them and ran those as incident commander. So that's some of the context where some of this is coming from. I want to share some of my operational experience in this presentation, as well as combined with what we at Lumu think we can do to help you improve that security operations. So with that, cybersecurity can be a complex operation, but at its core, it's made up of two components, obviously, people and technology. Although we've seen incredible advances in the technology side of things, we need to ensure that the technology acquisition doesn't amount to just another shiny thing in the toolkit, which there's a lot of shiny objects in cybersecurity. We needed to empower the people that operate it. That's the context of this as we go forward. And with that, what's the reality? What's the reality versus the problem? The reality is all organizations are forced to operate cybersecurity, and the problem is operating it's hard. All organizations, large and small, are forced to operate cybersecurity based on the current threat landscape. The problem with operating cybersecurity is that operating cybersecurity is very hard. In many cases, the technology that is supposed to help us is actually making things matter by making it more complex. So why is that? First, the true problems get lost in the noise. The bad guys hide in the noise. They're very sophisticated. They know that it's a volume issue. If you're getting 1,000 alerts a day, hiding in that noise is much easier. I call it, trying to find the needle in the needle stack. Technology is hard to operate. Look at all the different, technologies out there that require complex certifications. It's like having a degree in that technology. If that's the case, then obviously the labor costs and the lift to operate that is huge. And then and skilled talent is scarce and costly. I mean, it's not getting better, it's getting worse. There's more and more open recs for security. There's less people coming into the environment, believe it or not, even with the pay, because of the stress and the STEM requirements up front. And there's some long-term solutions to that, but we're looking for what's the short-term solutions. So all right, so what's the impact? The adversary has ample time to do damage. I mean, the net of it is, so the impact of the inefficient in cybersecurity operation is that the adversary has too much time to do the damage. The latest IBM study says the average dwell time is 200 days. I mean, think about what you can, how much damage you can do in 200 days. And this is not only affecting large enterprises. Every 11 seconds, there's a company falling victim of ransomware, and 43% of those are small biz. Think about small biz, smaller budgets, less staff, all things, but they're easy targets, but they're still motivated as much as any company is to stay relevant and open for their customers. So there's a lot of opportunity for the bad guys there, an easy opportunity in their space in terms of the technical sophistication that they're up against. So what are current limitations to SecOps? Well, first and foremost is alert fatigue. As a vendor, if you're just providing more data to your customers, you're not necessarily doing them any favors, because they're probably not getting to the data they already have. So the rising volume of security alerts is creating problems for operation teams struggling to handle. More than half, 56% of large companies handle at least 1,000 alerts per day, as I mentioned before. Nearly all respondents agree that high alert volume is a burden. Most, 68%, said they worry that important events must be lost in a flood of minor issues, which is true. It's what we call hiding in the noise. 66% are concerned about wasting time on chasing false positives. Happens all the time. If you got 1,000 alerts, which ones are you going to pick? So it just kind of falls down to it's the little Dutch boy trying to plug the dike. So and they're being overwhelmed. Second thing is limited information. When you say, well, I just had too much data. Yeah, but the ironically, the alert's at an all-time high, but responding to these alerts proves difficult when information about the incident is limited or non-existent. Just telling you have a bad situation doesn't solve the problem. You need the context around it and what to do for your next, second, and third level steps, and you need to be able to do that quickly. Third are siloed systems. The problem is, cybersecurity is among the most siloed disciplines in all of IT. The industry is exceedingly fragmented between many highly specialized companies. Name the big ones. In fact, according to IBM estimates, the average enterprise uses 80 different products from 40 vendors. Now, you can try and wrap your head around that. How are you? That's what I call, falls in the realm of participant many, master of none. How can you be proficient at that many different things? And if they're not integrated, you're the integrator. The human's the glue between the two. So, what the industry needs is something that pulls that together. And that leads me to number 4 is the complex and limited integrations. The integrations are going to be key. Think open standards, anything that, sticks to axes is a move in the right direction with, an open standard for how to report or to report threat intel and stuff. But, solutions require extensive training and certain parameters to properly configure and automate for maximum efficiency. That's a mouthful. Basically what that means is it's really hard to set them up and it's really hard to get them to play well with others. And, that needs to change for us to move the ball forward. So now let's talk about the cybersecurity talent shortage. Everything I just mentioned just, screams of, I need more people. So, we'll throw some statistics at you. More than 700K positions need to be filled in the cybersecurity industry. These are numbers, but I can tell you, as a grassroots in Kansas City at any one time, we have 4,500 to 5,000 of those positions open. I've been on boards locally where we're trying to try and solve the talent shortage by working with the local colleges and, junior college and that deal, and taking this from 4-year degrees to shorter degrees that are certification focused, and the students come out job ready. Lumu is doing a similar thing with Dade College in the Miami area for the same reasons. We're trying to build the cybersecurity talent space in our local markets, and then hold those, engage them in our company, make them a part of the company so that they stay with our company. Those are some of the long-term goals. Again, I talked about the number of unfilled security positions. So what's our take on it? The talent pool may in fact be dwindling. You see a lot of status out there that people are leaving this industry due to the high stress, long work hours. Not everyone wants to live to work. We need to do something to help those people out. With a possible recession coming, the ability to hire is going to be limited. So what can you do? You've got to find ways to give those analysts more time back in their day, to make them more efficient, do more with less. Everyone hates that term, but it's probably going to happen by necessity. So the only short-term reaction to that is through your technology. And that's, and automation is the key to mitigating the effects of the talent shortage. It's the bottom line. The thing we can do quickly is automation. So, that's our next best step. So where do we go from here? What the future of SecOps looks like is that we're going to have to orchestrate and operate, with little help from people. I mean, the more complex an algorithm is within AI or anything of these complex systems, the higher the probability of the false positive. It's just the way it is. You've got more instances of the ability to have analysts biased in there in writing those algorithms. There's more how, the bad guy can shift. The bad guy shifts faster than the algorithms change. But outside of that, there's a number of things out there that they're just bad. It doesn't take a lot of analysts. They're just hiding in the noise, and there's a bunch of them, one of which is contact with the adversary. And we at Lumu believe no contact with the adversary is a good thing. It's like, nothing good happens after midnight, right? And nothing good happens if you're in contact with a bad location. So that's one of our tenets is, we're taking away that physical space that they can operate in by taking away the places they can operate from. The second is extended threat visualization, providing added visibility in a clear and concise way. It's not 5 layers and 4 systems to get to ground truth that, hey, these guys came in, they went to 5 different machines, and now they're across your network, and they've been in there for 2 weeks. Go. You need that, that single pane of glass, the junior analyst, understanding level to get to root cause on probably 80% of these types of events, and then save the 20% for the highly sophisticated talent that you're paying 6 figures for to run a SIM or whatever and do digital forensics and things of that nature. And then finally, we've got to have incremental improvement. the bad guys are always changing their techniques, tactics, and protocols. We've always got to improve to follow. It's kind of like a chess match. Move and counter move. We've got to constantly do that. To give you some examples, there's a book I really like called The Black Box Thinking. I read this years ago, and it creates an environment where you can report mistakes, right, but learn from it. And it's about the aviation industry. There's a reason why not very many planes crash, and when they do, they learn from it. It doesn't happen again, right? So Matthew said gives some valuable insight in this idea, in his book, Black Box Thinking. So it gives the example of improvements in racing cars. The secret to modern F1 is not really to do with big ticket items. It's about hundreds of thousands of small items optimized to the nth degree. And think about that. It's kind of like Sun Tzu, and a 1,000-step journey starts with a single step. It's that same sort of deal. It's incremental change. It's also, Jeff Skiles mentioned at a recent talk with us, hosted by Lumu, and Skiles is the pilot that landed on the Hudson, saved everyone there. It's equally important to some of the most proficient cybersecurity operations the world have ever seen. He mentioned, it's the core of how you do things to improve, right? Definition of insanity is doing the same thing and expecting different results, right? So it's all about that. So adapting this philosophy first requires admitting mistakes, and that goes. This is a leadership thing. I always call leaders are shields. I always have a rule. I'm a shield. I'm going to protect you. My only rule is I don't like being shot through the same hole twice, right? Learn from the mistake and move on. In my view, if you're not making mistakes, you're not running fast enough. So it's just be credible with it. So post-incident investigation, forensic analysis need to point out failures and opportunities for improvement. Additionally, incremental improvement means treating your ideas as hypotheses to be tested. We're all liable to biases that adversely affect our decision making. I mentioned the biases in the algorithms, for example. Sticking with a legacy tool just because that's the one you're comfortable with, better the devil you know, that can impede continuous improvement. And I get it, right? How much time do you have in the day to learn something new? But sometimes, with that incremental process, you can still get there. It's vital to collect objective data that measures the cybersecurity system's proficiency as a whole. At Lumu, look, we call this indicator the system's level of compromise. We're constantly measuring the level of compromise. So we're constantly watching the system, what's getting through the system. Not only are we providing the automation to block that once it does get through as a interlocking defense with your systems, but it also gives you a feedback loop as to, well, why did that get through my primary systems in the first place? Was there an access control list change that overwritten rules on my endpoints? Did I whitelist things that the bad guys took advantage of? What are these things? It's that multi-layer self-healing network that's constantly narrowing the field in which the battlefield in which the bad guys can operate on. So an abstract created from the aggregate comprises detection across the entire system. By tracking this metric, it becomes possible to identify tools and processes that are underperforming that can improve upon, which is another way of saying what I just said. So with that, let's talk about automation and orchestration. Look, we can talk about automation and orchestration, but we always still need the people. People aren't ever going away. Ever. No, not anytime soon. The people are always there for the sanity check and the cross reference between what the machines do come up with. I just mentioned, the high rate of errors, the more complex it is, and the more complex it is, the less often it changes. So in machine learning and automation, especially in obviously bad actions, look, we can do a lot of automation, like I said before, in situations where it's known bad. There's no reason not to do this. Just take it out of the fight. Don't make it the high end part of your level 2s and your level 3s deal with it. Your level 1, your junior engineers or whatever can handle those types of decisions. Let's see, the human operator will always be the ultimate arbitrator and decision maker. The more complex the algorithm, I've beat this to death, but that's the crux of it. Decisions around how to appropriately remediate and mitigate an attack will require context and human insight. This is the triage element will always exist and be run by the human operator. It's like, okay, I got this data. What next? There's no point in doing heart surgery if the patient's bleeding out on the table. Stop the bleeding, limit the damage, move quick, because the bad guy is. So that's the context of this. So we come to extended threat visualization for maximum efficiency. So with this, for the SOC of the future, lateral visibility will be far more automated than it is now. What I'm talking about is that cross correlation to all the other things that are related to the event you just got. Currently, it can be tough to achieve, requiring a threat hunting solution in the highest skill level. Use it is effectively here. Lumu is way ahead of the curve with our playback feature. What we're doing is we're collecting up to 2 years of data. And then whenever we see a new indicator of compromise, what we would call a 0 day in terms of location, we're going to go back into your data and find first contact and all contact and give you all that lateral information. So think about that. The bad guy has been in there for a while. They were in a source that wasn't a known source. When it becomes a known source, we're immediately going to not only block that source, but also see where all that source went to go see that second and third level damage. Was there data exfiltration? Do I need to re-image those devices? Have they spread to another avenue of attack? All those things in that context, based on that threat actor, what they're known for, their TTPs, gives me the playbook, and that's the MITRE attack method. What are they doing in the method to jump back out ahead and get back out in front of the bad guys and limit the damage, or set off the klaxons and shut down the network before real damage occurs. So next thing is incremental improvement. I had my team put this graphic on there. I've seen it out on LinkedIn lately, but it means a lot to me. It's kind of the equivalent of, if you've heard the context of the law of compounding interest, I call this the law of compounding effort. And it's a pretty simple concept. If you do the same thing every day for 365 days, you're going to have about the same level of effort per day, or effect per day. If you just put in 1% more effort, and that equates to gaining 6 minutes of your day back, right? If a task took 10 minutes, how can I get it down to 6? How can I get it down to 4? If I did that once a day, I'd have almost 40 times more efficiency within that network. And think about that. That's a small step. If I just, in systems engineering, we take complex problems and we break them down into the tiniest element, and then start developing them or fixing them or doing whatever. If you think of this in terms of security as a system and how to run it, if you do this continuous improvement to where you're constantly, all right, what have I improved today? What have I increased today? And you took that, you're going to have exponential growth in your effectiveness within your team. And at Lumu, we hope we can do that. Now, obviously, the bottom one is if you do, if you lose people and you do 1% less, you can see the catastrophic event there. That translates into exposure. So with that, I'd like to thank you for your time. I'd like to encourage you to come by and see us at the virtual booth. If you're on this video recording, I'll be there physically. So if you're there physically, please come by and see me. We'll talk about Lumu. We'll talk about operations. We'll talk about whatever you want to talk about. At Lumu, we want to be your partner, your security partner. We're not here just to put a shiny object in. We want to integrate with your systems. We want to make you successful, and this is a team sport. And so I encourage you to open your free account at lumu.com. Take it out, kick the tires, drive it like you stole it, understand it, develop some questions, and we're more than happy to answer those questions and help you get to a safer network. And thank you for your time, and enjoy the conference.